Awesome. So we are recording. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon. I am with Swiftfire, and I am super, super excited because we have an awesome, awesome guest. You guys are going to absolutely love this tonight. Kerry Cassidy is here with us. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but I've been following this lady for several years now, and she actually has a kind of new in February. I mean, we're in COVID years, so what does that even mean anymore? But Rebel Jean, she's got a new book out that I just got in the mail here. I'm going to post it up here. I will give you all the information about how to get this. She's going to talk about her book, and she's going to go into things like Q and Trump and HARP and masks and all the hot topics that are definitely on the brink of where we are right now. First of all, just welcome, and then I'm going to read your bio so people have a little bit background, but thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to read this. She is a filmmaker, director, author, speaker, founder of Project Camelot, which I'm gonna ask a little bit about. I know a little bit, but I'd like to know more. She's picked up a camcorder back in the day and started looking into UFOs and paranormal, secret space program. Now she's done all kinds of films. She's been a part of major projects, extreme secret societies, high-level security clearances, and secret governments in the past 15 years. She's interviewed over 1,000 people on the radio and video. I'm sure that's way more by now. This is her recent book, Rebel Jean. It goes into the secret space and future of humanity, now on Amazon. And I actually found her through going through some of the stuff with Montauk and kind of clearing, getting my legs through all of that. And Max Spears, James Rink, and some of the other people involved with that kind of, I don't even know, but I saw a video that she did with James and Max and Michael, I think Michael was in that one. It was probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago you did this video. But I watched
it. Operation for over 15 years. So I it wasn't at the very beginning. It might've been, maybe it was, like 7 or 8 years ago. It could have been 10, but I'm not sure. I think maybe 7 years ago or so.
Yeah. And this is the power of media. And so, these platforms that you can put something up 7 years ago, people are still finding it now and waking up and connecting the dots that have kind of, for me, I feel like I've had all these like memories and flashes and spots, and immediately I saw the video, I had a download of memories that came back. And I mean, it's been a good 3-4 year ride of really just trying to go through a lot of healing and connect, and still following your work. And I just actually watched a few of your latest videos with Charlie Ward and Robert Steele. I have Robert Steele on next week, actually. He's awesome. I've been following him for a while too. But tell us a little bit, how in the world did you even get in this? Like, I know you picked up a camcorder and started, but I know you worked with major corporations kind of underground with some of these big projects too. And like, how do you even get to be a consultant with all of these people?
Well, I mean, I started out in Hollywood. So I worked in Hollywood for about 20 years, and I worked in sort of all aspects of production, working my way up. I eventually was an executive assistant to top executives of like Sony Pictures and, Paramount Pictures and all these different companies. And I became what you call a reader. So I read scripts and recommended them to HBO and to the various top talent agencies like ICM and William Morris and CAA and so on. And eventually I became what's called a back pocket client. I wrote, I did something semi-illegal. I didn't know it was illegal. I just found a book that I really loved that kind of fell off the floor, the bookshelf in Venice, California. one Sunday, and it was called War of the End of the World by Mario Vargas Llosa. And I just knew I had to read that book. And then I read it, and it's a wonderful, I think he won, like, I don't know if it was a Pulitzer Prize or some prize for it. He's a Latin American author who actually ran for president later. I think it became president of, I think it was Peru. It's been so many years. But at any rate, when he wrote the book, he was like a leftist, and then he became a right winger. So it's kind of an interesting trajectory. And so the story was so captivating and so, I guess you might say, poetic and very filmic. And so I decided to write my first screenplay as an adaptation of that, to try to make it into a movie. And I had a connection with CAA, which was one of the top agencies that recommend, that handle people like Spielberg and other people. So I got with Spielberg's agent. Eventually they brought me in. They said it was, my screenplay was quote unquote brilliant, so-and-so, but I could never do it because the author, well, I did write to the author and I told him, I sent him my screenplay and he said he liked it, but I didn't put enough of the war in it. It's kind of funny. But ultimately they said, you can't get the rights to this and it'll never get made. It's so uncommercial. And actually someday I'd like to still make this movie. But nonetheless, I know this is a little long, but I have to say that anyway, during those years, I also became what you call a development assistant or D-girl for a small film company. And I did film development trying to get other people's movies made. And I was involved in sort of this kickboxing, company that was dealing, by the way, with Tarantino at the time and so on. So then eventually there was like a strike and jobs dried up. And so I ended up going to work for JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab, as a contractor, helping them because my expertise in media. So then I helped to get the scientist to do a transition onto this certain kind of software measurement process. And that was fairly dry and boring, but I tried to make it exciting and interesting. And I made some of the first posters using the rover as their symbol and tried to sort of teach them about how to be more media savvy in certain ways. And that was a really interesting time working for JPL. And I had no idea why I was even there. But during that time, I started writing my own screenplays. And they were sci-fi screenplays. And what I wanted to do is basically tell the truth that I knew to be true about, the ET visitation here on Earth and what was really going on. And I knew this stuff psychically because as I grew up, I had a lot of psychic intuition and a lot of hits, knowing that, I knew things that other people didn't seem to know. So that has guided me in my career for all these years. And what else can I tell you? So eventually I left JPL. I decided to pick up a consumer grade camcorder and shoot my own movies. And I was going to shoot a UFO documentary. So I started going to conferences and interviewing the speakers. And I was compiling the documentary and basically asking people like Rich Dolan and Stephen Bassett and Jim Mars and, talking to really people that were quite well known in the sector, have you seen a UFO? Because they would go on stage, they would talk for hours, but they would never talk about themselves and whether they knew, on a personal level that this stuff was true. Whereas I had seen a UFO since I was a kid and I was abducted at a very young age. Wow. So I knew it was true. And in fact, when I saw the Spielberg movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it was like an incredible experience for me. I just was, I don't know, it was like a religious experience or something, because it was the first time that since I was a little kid that someone had put on the screen what I knew to be true. And and you know, there's a lot more to that, and a lot of it's in my book, but it's hard, you know, because you sounded like you have buried memories, and then little pieces come forward. And so even now, you know, to this day, every time something will come along and someone will talk to me, like I just talked to somebody recently and she was talking about her experiences, and all of a sudden she brought up something and I was like, oh my God, that's in my, you know, litany of stuff that I didn't realize anyone else had done or had that, right? She was talking about this man with the fedora hat and an overcoat, and I had this, it was a recurring abduction dream. And so, you know, and so it goes. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's
Yeah.
that was the early days for me, before I had no idea I was going to end up doing all this investigation. And I was a journalist, though. I did go to college for journalism, and I was doing radical politics back then. I was interviewing people like Angela Davis, you know, and the Black Panthers. I wanted to interview them, and I took a class with one of them, and stuff like that. So I was in Sonoma State University in Northern California at the time, which was very radical. I was there at the best time, actually. And I was also all into investigating, like, you know, feminism, socialism, communism, fascism. So I was studying every single ism, you know, and I was eventually trying to major in sociology. I got a BA in English. I did graduate work in sociology. And then I left college instead of getting my graduate degree, and I moved to Southern California to make movies. And that's when I also got enrolled in UCLA Graduate School of Film and Television Executive Program, the Executive MBA program, and I did what you call the short fiction film program. And I was I got in as the writer, director, producer, which was you know, a hyphenate in the days before hyphenates were supposed to be allowed in that school. So, but I did that, and I did eventually make my own short film, although I didn't make the deadline in the class, but I, you know, I made it finished it afterwards. And that, I guess you might say, you know, that was kind of, I was writing screenplays. I was trying to become a director and learn that craft. And I also broke into Hollywood in a really strange way, that I came down to Hollywood right out of college, and basically started doing something no one else did to get a job. I started knocking on doors of production companies, literally like in person. And although the internet wasn't around, you still didn't do that. You weren't supposed to do that. So, but what I did was I knocked on the doors. I would go in, you know, and I would just, you know, I'd be dressed really cute and everything. And I would just say, you know, hi, I just came out of college and I would like to interview, you know, your director or producer and find out, you know, what it's like to become a director or producer.
Oh.
And believe it or not, I got in. And not only did I get in the door and get people, you know, guys would talk to me for like an hour or two, but I also ended up offering jobs that I couldn't even handle, like production manager of, you know, something. And all I was trying to do at that time was learn. So that was my intro. And I guess I was a renegade from that point on. I was always a renegade my whole life. That's why I called it Rebel Gene, because I have, well, it's in the book, but I believe that our rebellious spirit is what keeps us innovating and is actually saving our lives. And if you want to fast forward to right now, when they're trying to vaccinate people, in some ways, I believe what they're really trying to do is find the rebel gene and suppress it. So you could look at it that way. Other people think, you know, they're trying to suppress the God gene, so to speak. So
Yeah.
you want to call it, but there's a relationship there. So anyway, I know that's kind of going in a lot of different directions, but hopefully
that was great. I had no idea. That's awesome. What a huge, amazing background you have. And it's interesting too, because when we're doing all those, like, it seemed like forever ago stuff, and, you know, you're just thinking, or at least for me, it was like, when I'm going to do the thing, you know, the thing that you have in your mind that you're going to do. But really all of that is to get you where you are. And it all works out. It's just one giant, enormous Earth school, right? Just always learning. So talk to us a little bit. You're in California. We got the fire situation. I am currently in Louisiana. I'm from Montana, but I was military, so all over. But you know, I've posted some things about the dues and HARP, and even the the patents on some of this. I've posted patents straight up right on Facebook. Of course, I get fact checked, and I've been in Facebook jail now, I don't know how many times. And also they just censor almost everything I post, which that's annoying. And who knows what's going to happen in October when these new Facebook changes or whatever. We'll have to, but you tell us what you know about some of this, because I find it so interesting how, you know, people say it's a conspiracy theory, or they say all these things about, and they put this blanket conspiracy theory thing over everything pretty much. And then even when the science comes out, like the CDC comes out and says, oh, by the way, we just screwed up like way big time, like by a bunch of decimals and thousands of people, then isn't it like crazy how they still are being like, yeah, but it's still a conspiracy theory, and they're still masking, and they're still, you know, like, what do you even do? But tell us what you know about HARP and all these dues and the fires you guys have had. I know some of it's arson for sure, not climate change, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me first of all address, you know, being banned on, actually, I just got a strike on my latest video that I made, which is an update that I posted like a day and a half ago. It got 52,000 views in less than a day and a half. And so it was really going kind of like crazy. And I guess maybe they flagged it because of that or whatever. I talk about a lot of things in that video. I've now uploaded it to BitChute, but they gave me another strike. So now I have 2 strikes in the last 2 months. And if I get one more, they're going to delete my entire channel, which is gigantic. So by the way, I've interviewed, well, I've made 800 video interviews, that over 800 that are on my YouTube channel. And then on top of it, I did 5 years of radio. And a lot of those radio shows, for some reason, got deleted off our server and disappeared. So we managed to salvage some of them, but you know, even to this day, a lot of my radio shows just are not around. You know, I'll go, I interviewed that person, and then I'll look for the video. I mean, the radio, you know, it was too many years ago. So, you know, I've been doing this for a while now. So anyway, at any rate, so they now have given me another strike. And the reason, who knows what the reason is like, I'm talking about a lot of different subjects in that video, but it's a very hot video. So a lot of people wanted to see it. And I'm disclosing some information, like for one thing, I talk about the snipers at the White House. I have a patriot that contacted me to tell me some inside story. So, and all of this is on my website, and you can watch the video on. I'm now embedded it on my website. My website's projectcamelot.tv, yes, projectcamelot.org, or projectcamelotportal.com. So all 3 URLs go to the same place. But basically, so I just wanted to say that. And yes, I've also been given, you know, bans on Facebook from time to time. Although I post on Facebook almost every single day. And for some reason, I managed to avoid the censors for the most part over there. But generally, I don't post videos there. I only post, you know, I post heads up about stuff and links to my videos and everything I'm doing. And so, you know, being on my Facebook channel, people hear from me a lot, and also in Twitter. And I use also LinkedIn, and I also Telegram. I think I'm on, not Telegram, but Instagram, and I forget what else. But so, you know, I try to put out, I have a newsletter that goes out. I mean, I'm very active constantly. And of course, I have been active the whole time. But what happened with this COVID thing is that around, as you know, around February, they started locking everything down, and so much craziness was out there that I felt compelled that I had to be out there. I had to be countering the narrative that was so destructive out there. So that's when I really started. I mean, you know, I was collecting everything under the sun and putting out, you know, information from doctors. And, you know, I really delved deep into this whole subject. And now I've written several articles. My more recent article is about the frequency wars and how the COVID targeting and 5G, it's not only 5G, it's also basically, you know, directed energy weapons. And that gets into also what's going on with the fires. So, you know, the fires mainly concentrated this year on Northern California. Most years there was some southern, so southern and northern, and it's always these certain areas. And one year, like 2 years ago, we were evacuated in my area because I'm north of LA about 40 miles and slightly inland from Malibu. So where we are is a pretty good place, but nonetheless we did get fire. But they saved our city, so it came up to the perimeter of the city. It's totally zoned, you know, they know exactly what they're going to burn and why and where they're not going to burn and so on and so forth. So there's so much evidence of them actually, you know, directed energy weapons burning and causing these fires. And then, of course, the fire is burning with an intensity. And I interviewed, you know, Deborah Tavares, who lives in Northern California. I grew up in Northern California, moved to Southern. She grew up in Southern California, moved to Northern. So we kind of switched, but we know a lot of the same kind of, you know, stuff, and certainly are familiar with our areas. So the wine country it's a land grab. There's no doubt about it. And the Illuminati are really obsessed with wine, as you can probably imagine. And the whole, you know, God, what do they call that? Up in Guerneville. Anyway, that whole Illuminati, you know, where the owl is, and
Pasadena, you're talking about? I mean, not Pasadena. Where the fires were last.
Yeah, but there's a
Paradise. In Paradise.
No, that actually was attacked for sure. But no, I'm talking about this Illuminati stronghold. It's all right. It'll come to me. Alex Jones went there, you know, with a camera. It's kind of famous for that. Maybe you're not even familiar with it, but at any rate, it's a place where they do sacrifices. Some believe human sacrifices, but whether that's true or not, we don't know. A Bohemian Grove. So Bohemian Grove is in Northern California. And because I went to college up there, you know, I know that whole area and stuff. So, what can I say? Yeah, there's evidence also that, so my specialty is the secret space program and Whistles from Above Top Secret, who came to Project Camelot to disclose information. Now, at a certain point in our history, during the over 15 years we've been doing this, we seem to have hit the ground at the exact right time to get the testimony from some of the best witnesses out there. And then a lot of those witnesses either went back to work for the state, you know, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, have died or were killed, or, you know, and so on. And so with Julian Assange and with Edward Snowden, what happened was, they were like the targeted ones that were supposed to keep all the other whistleblowers now from coming forward. So what you get now are not as great whistleblowers, obviously. People are really afraid of coming forward, but we have leaks. So I still have sources. I've been, in my recent video, I've been talked about, it's interesting because now my leaking sources, some of which are associated with the Illuminati or used to work with the Illuminati, no longer have good info, or they're simply not talking. And, you know, or they're trying to mislead me. And then, you know, there is also, you know, the sort of good guys, if you want, and they're not talking either. So it's a very interesting sort of dynamic out there when you've been a journalist, you know, an investigative journalist for this long in this sector, watching this all go, and then knowing what's happening right now and how much disinfo and craziness is out there. And, you kind of pointed it out in the beginning. One day the CDC is saying, do this and do that. And same with Fauci. And then he's changed his mind and so on. So, I mean, there's no doubt that these guys are extremely, in bed with the deep state. The California governor is, totally bought and paid for. I mean, locking down people for no reason. I always like this, this sort of one person put out, well, if the masks work, then why the 6 feet? If the 6 feet works, then why the lockdown? If this works, then, even if the lockdown worked, what the fuck are we doing? Sorry. What the hell are we doing right now? You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it doesn't stop. Even now there's new articles coming out, and, they're locking down Melbourne and stuff. And that's where I got into, in my recent video, I'm actually even, calling out some of the stuff being put out by certain individuals that I've interviewed that, I don't have to agree with everyone. Okay. Just because I interview somebody, you don't agree with them. You just you interview them to bring the topics forward.
I know who you're talking about.
and so I'm basically saying, do not tell me that it's because of the financial, rollout that everyone has to stay in their houses, locked down like a Nazi concentration camp in Melbourne, Australia. This is nonsense. But there's this rationale that humans will just accept anything you tell them, that they're so stupid that they don't see the contradictions out there. They don't see that. It's hilarious. In England right now, they had an article, like I think yesterday or whatever, where Boris Johnson is saying now they're going to close pubs at 10 at night. So what does COVID do at 10 at night? Go to sleep? So then it's not okay to be in a pub at night after 10, or what the hell? Or it doesn't, or it becomes active at 10 at night. What's the rationale? Let's like really, really drill this down. So there is so much stupidity out there. And that's really shocking. So I think I'm ranting.
It is.
Go ahead.
It is. It's shocking to me. And what's aggravating or annoying is that, like, someone like you and lots of people that I know actually saw it from the beginning and just are walking right in it going, okay, and we're saying the things, and me as a scientist saying the things, you as a journalist getting real good information, like for real, real intel from real people. I mean, I'm getting banned for telling my own story of things that have personally happened to me, and they're fact checking me, and it's like, no, I'm actually a doctor, and these are the facts, and you're fact checking me, and so I had a state representative contact me. Well, he's no longer a state representative, but he was for 28 years. He actually wrote the law for our government here in the state anyway. And so he's upset because the governor is actually unconstitutionally holding this mandate that doesn't even reflect the man who authored the bill. So they're in direct conflict over that, and they're trying to recall the governor. And he had contacted me about what was going on with some of the stuff, or where I stand on what I'm seeing, on a science basis or whatever. But there's some people who are completely awake, and then there's some people, no matter what information, no matter how many pieces of intel, facts, science, patents, that they're just going to be like, oh, well, that's probably doctored, or that was photoshopped, or that's just hearsay, or it's like, what? And this mask thing, oh my gosh. Yeah, like you said, the bars, it closes at 10. It's like same thing with Walmart, like they close at whatever times, like, so shopping suddenly becomes a problem. Or you can eat at a restaurant with your mask off at a table while you're all sitting by each other, but the kids are sitting in desks with masks on for 8 hours at school. Like, and all of the science about how masks don't work anyway, and most of the mandates that are all unconstitutional are actually written that he's either distance or masked, not both. But I don't know. I mean, it's I just keep waiting for everyone to just wake up and go, oh my gosh, and just
Yeah,
stop
wouldn't
wearing
that be
their,
nice? I
like,
mean, we're getting to a really weird juncture, and I got into the whole quantum financial system. I have these things that I get like a download saying, okay, you need to go in this direction now. So like right now, I've been doing the quantum financial system. I'm getting kind of a brick wall on that one, but I'm still pushing, I'm still trying to find more data. And then now the latest is I'm trying to investigate is this whole, rushing the Moderna vaccine with, with the hydrogel nano in it that's going to be using,
yeah.
the mRNA and all of this and changing our DNA, which is in essence, I got sort of a download about and so on and so forth. So, but to get back to the quantum financial system, so as I start going down that road, I'm getting like information, but as I don't know if you know, but I did there was this PowerPoint that came out and nobody knew, they weren't really saying who authored it. But Charlie Ward put it on his channel with no explanation. And I think he even put it up again recently, but he doesn't say anything. So I decided I would analyze it. So I went through slide by slide, and I worked also with Paladin, I don't know if Paladin, the white hat, because he's working with a group of, he's a forensic financial investigator. I've worked with him in the past to investigate certain things that he has a background in. And so in this situation, my financial background is extremely limited. So basically, I thought bringing him in would be good. But what happens is that the white hats are involved in what is supposed to be the rollout of the QFS, and they're doing a certain job related to that. But he's supposed to make his own video. He didn't want to come on my show to talk about it, but we did some investigation together. And initially he thought that the PowerPoint was fairly accurate. So, but when you delve into the PowerPoint page by page, we started to see a lot of problems. And it initially had a presidential seal. And so then you find out it's not, they just copied this paragraph out of a strategic document from this particular group that published it. And that it doesn't say, like, the whole document says nothing about AI. I mean, the original document, but the PowerPoint then says AI is going to be running the system. Anyway, there ended up to be a lot of sort of contradictions. They put, Q in clouds, as if Q is the author, but it's not the author in theory, and so on and so forth. So I made a whole video analyzing that. And it's still on my channel for those of you that are interested. But at any rate, what I'm trying to say is that then at that point, Charlie Freak to some degree, but Charlie Ward mainly are talking about the quantum financial system. Okay. They're talking about the Trump team and what they're doing and going into underground bases and rescuing the children and so on and so forth. Well, that information is being distributed among lots of people, and the Q drops, I think, are hinting about these things, although not maybe coming out in black and white and saying that's what they're doing. But I know a lot about sort of this whole Draco Luciferian alliance, attack on humans, what's really behind it, and so on. And I can talk at great length about all that, but most people don't, they see the surface, sort of bullet points, if you will. So, but what I'm finding is that now suddenly there's more than one QFS and more than one group talking about the QFS. And there's someone named Kim Possible, and she is supposed to have the right DNA to be able to have the codes and have access to the money. And, she was put in place as well. And now she's disclosing, and I'm basically hopefully going to invite her on my show. But you understand that a lot of and then I've got Illuminati people on a high level that are financial, and they're saying, no, it's all lies. None of it's happening. And they're denying. And the same thing about the underground bases. Then I get tons of denial there. And so what I'm getting is unlike any other time, like when we have been gathering information and delving into a subject, we would eventually get like a clear, more or less, it doesn't mean you're going to get every detail, but you get the main details and stuff. But in this situation, in this time, there's been like a concerted effort, I think, by both sides to basically disinfo the public, to give them teasers of information, but not to tell them the real truth and nothing but the truth. And, the attitude seems to be on both sides, you can't handle the truth.
Right.
And, that, of course,
that's a lie. We are truth. Truth is in us already. It's in our DNA. How do you separate?
Exactly. And truth resonates, right? So if we could just hear the truth, and this is why what I do in my work, I try to talk about what is true. Now I can bring it forward. I can't tell you what to believe. You're going to have to decide, does that resonate? But some of the things are being said by various people out there are great. Some believe it. They believe what they're saying. I don't believe these people are lying. Okay. I don't believe they're, some people think they're tricksters or they are frauds or they're this.
Right.
I don't see that. I don't see a lot of people coming into this sector, even all these years to be frauds, even strangely, even CIA agents that have over the years disinfoed the public. A lot of times there's a grain underneath them, like Rick Doty, where they want to believe, if you want to call it that. Okay. So they want to believe that ET is here and they think they know certain things they know, but they're working to disinfo you because that's their job. Right. So this is, what can I say? I have become like a major sort of investigator, and being able to take lots of information, gel it down, and try to get the threads of truth, like of, sort of clues, if you will, follow the clues and then see how they connect. And usually you can start to see the emergence of a through line from, the original sort of factoids you might have picked up and so on. So I believe it's so important for humanity at this point because we all want to know the truth, the drive, this is the time of the revealing, as you may know, this is actually the energies out there are in our favor for this disclosing of the real truth to humanity and to waking up to who we really are. But there are so many people working to counter that, Soros with Black Lives Matter and it's very interesting because you get Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all being funded like by Soros. And yet this is what people kind of they miss the gray areas, which is, I don't miss the gray areas. Okay. I pay attention to the gray areas because that's where there's something going on, so to speak. So the individuals who are coming out of their houses and hitting the streets, they're not all just, psychos. Some of them actually believe they're doing some good. They believe that, they're standing up for their skin color, or they're standing up for their rights, or they're standing up for their human freedoms, or whatever it is, they're just, some of them are just unbelievable. They're not researchers. They've never gone down the path of they're just sort of out there acting out, if you will. But sometimes it matters that they're doing that. I mean, you got to bring it down to so you go from the the whole to the part. So the individual, what does it mean to their individual life? That they're out there trying to stand up for something like people did in the 60s, for example. And then they say, oh, well, the Rand Institute and the Tavistock Institute, they told the rock and rollers what to sing, but it doesn't matter. you know, where the lyrics, you know, really came from Jim Morrison or who they came for. Because the bottom line is that if you take a human and that human resonates with something and then they embody it, then it's real. It's
Yeah.
not real because somebody sits in a frickin', you know, office in some cold antiseptic, you know, reptilian environment and decides that they want to turn people, you know, this way, or they want to turn them that way. What matters is the people that make the history, you know, and the real truth within them. So that's what we listen to. That's what we want to hear. And you can, you know, I can watch a movie with a female hero and basically be inspired by her. It doesn't, in the end of the day, does it really matter? What does it mean whether she's real or she's not, whether the story is accurate as told? In the end, it's the spirit of the story, you know,
Right.
it's the heart of the story that we follow and that has meaning to us and can change our world. And then we can change the world around us as a result. So, sorry, you can ask me a question now.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's really, really good. Very, very deep stuff here. I've seen a lot of your interviews and I hadn't heard any of that before. So that's really cool. I like new stuff too. I am curious for the people who haven't ever seen you before. And there's a lot of people who are going to be watching this who are brand new to you and to some of these subjects, actually. Where are you on this whole JFK and Q and all of that? Like, where are you with that?
Well, I've said this a few times. You know, so a lot of people think, you know, it's funny to be in the position that I'm in where I'm talking to people all the time. And this has gone on for years. And so I hear what they say, but nothing, unless it resonates with me, unless I get a hit, what I call a hit, then it doesn't matter to me whether they believe it. You know, I might know they believe what they're telling me, but if it doesn't hit with me, then it's going nowhere, right? So I don't, you know, I'm not a prepper and I don't, you know, pack up everything and get ready for this or that. I mean, I've been told through the years so many times, I can't tell you, you know, oh, you know, Armageddon's right around the corner and all this kind of shit. Oh, that's not how it works for me. For me, I need to have my own downloads. I have to have my own, you know, really strong series of dreams, for example. And when I was activating my Kundalini in New York City and joining my chakras and meditating every day for hours and hours, it just happened that that's what I was able to do because I was able to stay in a friend's loft where I didn't have to pay rent for a short time. Actually, it was 6 months or so. And so what happened is I basically learned to sort of listen out there and listen in. And then I get information, and the information would tell me things about the future. So I have a whole litany of dreams of the future that I most of the time don't talk about. I just wait to see if they're going to happen. And some of them, you know, I don't want to happen.
Let me give a timeout too for some of the people that aren't familiar with Kundalini and stuff. You guys can go back and watch some of my videos about how the science of that, there's a real science to that. Don't get caught up in names and what people call it or whatever. There's an activation that goes up all of your back, connects all of it. It's where electric goes up to the pineal. And this is what causes, I mean, it's like a pine cone that basically shows a projection where we're able to see, connect with God, you know, anyway. But I just want to give that because some people might not be familiar with that in some of the places that I'm listening to. But this is very important in the body, and there's lots of ways that we can connect with that and help the pineal to do these kind of things. So we are connecting with God, because this is a big way to not just connect with God, but to be able to connect with empathy and compassion for other people, and to see the whole connect of the world, and like the Schumann and the collective, and of course when we're connecting with God, then God knows everything. So when with what you're doing in meditation, which is scientifically proven to do all sorts of things physically, but also on a spiritual level, You know, I just would encourage anyone, if you haven't done any of that, to check more into it, to look into some of the things that she's saying. Because if you don't want to, if you feel like you've been programmed for the television and the beta waves and all the narratives and the Facebook and, you know, all the stuff that's social dilemma, blah, 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 what she's doing right now and what she's been doing for 20 years back in New York, starting this, is connecting direct. I call it direct TV. This is the direct access point to source, where you can get your own information. And what she's talking about is super important. I don't want to cut you off, but that's so big what you're saying that I had to say that. But okay, keep going. So you were having dreams and
well, yeah. So what I'm saying here, and by the way, you know, I've done some videos teaching Kundalini activation.
oh,
And Kundalini is the same thing as orgone. Some people may know that from the West. It's also known as Qi in China and the East, in portions of the East. Kundalini is the name used in India, and this is where the yogis activate the Kundalini and are able to do all kinds of miraculous things. You know, and there's a lot of information out there about that sort of thing. So I can teach these classes as well, and have, you know, these videos. I think it's a set of 3 at this point that are now where I'm really drilling down into the Kundalini activation. Strangely enough, before I got onto, you know, doing this for Camelot, what I thought my mission was going to be was teaching Kundalini activation, because that's the thing that, you know, at the time I knew. But I ended up getting into this whole blowing side of things, and, you know, the deep state and secret space and all that. So now it's coming back around, because more and more people are interested in, you know, having a direct connection to source and wanting to know more about how that is developed. And, you know, it's a snake of light that comes up through the back of the spine and goes up, connects all the chakras, and up through the crown chakra and beyond. So you can appreciate how important this is. And this is, of course, what dark magicians, the really, you know, sort of side of evil, they're also using this, but they're using it for a negative purpose. And that gets into why they abducted children and feed off them, et cetera. And that's a big subject. So, you know, basically, so just want to say that this has been the areas of investigation. And Camelot is a little different. Like, there are some areas and some colleagues of mine that, like, they only talk about UFOs. They don't talk about, you know, I don't know, cures for cancer or whatever. But I interview people on every subject. Anytime there's a mystery or something that needs to be revealed, or investigated further, this is what piques my interest, and this is where Camelot will go. So we're kind of unusual in that sense, that there's, if you look at my my library, it's like, I don't know, something 850 videos on YouTube, you'll see that the subject matter is just vast. So, you know, I get into super soldiers and, you know, it's just, you know, ESP and remote viewing and you name it. So I have had to learn about all of these subjects. As it happened, I had studied a great deal before I ever got into Camelot and created Camelot, you know, with my former partner. So I had a very good grounding. You know, I studied spirituality. I studied Eastern philosophy. I studied, you know, all of I Ching and the Tarot and astrology, and, you know, you name it, I probably delved into it at one time or another in a lot of areas. And I also studied the occult, and I studied, and I didn't become like you know, occult magician per se, because I was, for some reason in this life, I knew that I'd already done that stuff. So I used past life information and then compiled like this sort of body of knowledge that I still work on, you know, expanding. And it's kind of like one of my witnesses, George Green, used to say, one of the first things to do is gain all knowledge. So I do follow that, and I think that's really important.
So in the Camelot, going back to the JFK question and what resonates.
Oh, I
for
forgot.
people.
Okay, so I never finished. Okay,
No,
so
but
yes,
it's
I
interesting
believe
that you.
JFK is alive. That whole preamble was to explain how I get information. So I got a hit that JFK was alive when that sort of rumor started making the rounds. And this is actually 1 or 2 years ago. Then and it was very strong, so I knew that that was truth. But then what happened is a few months into the COVID thing, I had a night in which I suddenly was with JFK Jr., interacting with him and Trump all night long. So what happened was I have these times when I have these dreams that are like what I call like beyond real, where I forget what reality is. So in the dream, I think that's reality. So when I woke up during the night and I would come back into this reality, go, oh, this is not reality. I'm going back to that reality, you know? So then I would go there, and it would happen all night long. So I got a very strong download about JFK Jr. and, you know, him being around and alive and so on and so forth. And I talked to him directly also. And it might be silly, but I think he actually, you know, was there. You know, I think it's real.
That's not silly at all.
You
I
know,
believe.
so
If
this
I'm
is the kind of stuff that I do get. So in answer to your question, and I have seen things of the future. Now, my position on the future is that the timelines are often changing, that we still have free will and we still can change certain things. From what I understand, there's some hard and fast, really large incidents that are kind of like unchangeable in all the timelines, across the timelines, but that the timelines can vary. And then it also gets into how many incarnation bodies are you incarnated in any one. What you think is one time, of course, is time is all simultaneous. So, right. And actually, you know, what I would like to say here is sort of about transhumanism and trying to address this. Now, I address this in my book, Rebel Gene, because I sort of, as a precog, I saw that the future was going to all be about about understanding our relationship to AI and transhumanism. So, of course, I have learned a lot about that, and I have one very special witness, Captain Mark Richards, who is been framed for murder and is in jail in Solano, Northern California. And I've been visiting him for now every 6 months for 5 years, and I've got or so, and I've got 12 interviews with him, and right now I'm trying to compile them all together into a book. But at any rate, he is a person who he and his father and even his grandfather was working with Tesla, so it's like he has a sort of heritage that goes into the secret space program very deeply, and he is basically what you call a political prisoner, in my view, being held against his will, of course, in prison. So his information is amazing, and I've been bringing it forward by doing these interviews where most of the time I can barely have a pencil, or it's just like this little tiny pencil that little children can use, and I you know, to write notes. I'm not allowed to have a recording device, etc. So I'm not there in an official journalist capacity because they don't allow journalists to interview him. Okay. Like I was told, you know, and he has a wife, her name is Joanne Richards. She's on the circuit talking about his information as well. And he's quite a prolific writer. He's written one book that was published, and then lots and lots of like pamphlets that she makes available on their website. Earth Defense Headquarters, I think is the name of it. And I've got a link to it on my website. But the bottom line is that he has been dealing with various ETs and going out and being a captain on like a Starship Enterprise type vehicle for many years before he got framed for murder. And the reason they framed him was because they saw he was going to basically rebel against them and their New World Order plans. And so they cut him off sort of cut him off at the chase, or whatever you want to call it, and basically imprisoned him. And this is where he is to this day. He's a remarkable man, and I have to say that he has been giving me amazing information. And again, I'm using what resonates as truth, and my own investigations in these sectors. And then, of course, I have lots of my own other witnesses and other witness testimony to bounce, compare, and contrast, and basically triangulate information. So this has been very helpful. And I can say that, you know, I believe that the Trump administration is definitely the good guys, and they are out there, you know, rescuing children, no doubt about it, in underground bases, and basically trying to bring forth a version of the quantum financial system. However, we can't. The trouble is that Trump is having to play a double game. So he's having to placate what is, in essence, you might call it the Democratic side, the side that are not aware of, let's say, the truths that I know and you know, and people like us might know. They're in denial about a lot of things. I mean, I can tell you, I even have had friends which, like, will just say to my face that they think, you know, the whole sort of pedophilia thing is a lie. Like,
Literally,
it's not real.
me too. I'm like, what?
They're totally in denial, and I don't understand how that can even be, but that is the case. So when you have a populace out there that believe everything somebody like, you know, this villain like Fauci says, and they don't even realize, they can't read like signatures of energy. They can't see when somebody is a liar, you know. This is, you know, it's everyone is at a different stage in their development, you know, on the planet. And this is a learning game, obviously. So, you know, and time is an illusion. So eventually we're all going to get to the same place. So I don't think it's necessary to be so judgmental about these people, other than to recognize, you know, who they are and where they are at this time in their development. But the reason I do my work is to not just to preach to the choir. Obviously, I'm trying to look for, you know, converts, for people that are basically going to rebel against the, you know, the lies that they've been told all these years, and try to encourage them to do so.
Well, and I mean, I get the whole judgment thing. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I have to catch myself too, and not be like, and get annoyed. I mean, I have really good days where I talk to someone who suddenly is getting it, and I'm like super, super stoked, and like whatever, and then you run into some other dumb thing, and then you're just like, oh my God, and then I'm crying, you know. It's just like, I have my movements. But I mean, when you're saying that people just straight up don't believe, you know, some of this stuff, I literally just posted 2 videos where one is like the court, some part of the court thing with Hillary, and they're literally saying from in a microphone how what they found on the laptop was literally her with fangs, with blood coming out of her mouth, telling someone when she's there with Huma, and they're talking about drinking the blood. What they're doing is drinking the blood of this baby that is in front of them, and this is on a laptop. And there's a guy who's, you could go to my video, you know, whenever this is posted or whatever. I'm on my Facebook. I just posted this, and it's part of this. I guess it was a month or 2 ago when they were doing the releasing of all these videos from the laptop, and then they showed the one of the lawyers, one of the attorneys involved, who from, you know, a microphone standing there talking about how, I can't remember, 360,000 videos or something that they had on there, and I probably got that number all wrong, but how most of them, the police, FBI, and all those involved were literally, you know, and they're like, this is what they do, see death and crazy things and terrible things like on a daily, and that they were vomiting over what they saw on these laptops. And this is like in a public courtroom where this is all being openly discussed, and there's people everywhere, and they're, you know, the camera is zooming around to the other people listening to these other people talking, and everyone's just sitting there like they're watching Sesame Street or something. Like, there's no response on their face at all to hearing Hillary has blood in her mouth sucking the baby juice, you know, from blood. Like, I was like, what, you know, that's crazy in itself. But also the fact that these people who are watching are literally sitting in the room like someone just told them the chicken crossed the road or something, like it was just normal. But and you should see some of the comments on there right away, where I guess I'm not the only one who thought that. But you know, when, if and when, and God please let all of this stuff really come out, all the stuff with the Epstein, you know, logs, and you know, all of this, you know, whether he's alive or not, you know, that's back and forth and all the way around. And anyway, I'm gonna have to have you on again, because we are like already an hour, and I could think of a million more things to talk to you about. If you'd ever come back, that would be super cool to have you.
Okay,
But
sure. You know, I'm more than happy to. And now that you know, we talked a little offline, and I just want to say you're invited to be a guest on my show. You've got your own story, and I think a lot of people would be very interested.
yeah, so I would love to do that, and anything to collaborate right now. I love that one thing that's happened out of all of this more than had been in the past anyway, was it's opened up the doors for everyone to find each other and collaborate, and to get information like we've never got before, and to be able to verify what's real, show evidence, give resources. You are such a big resource. I mean, oh my gosh, all of your articles and your videos, and I mean, you're just like the queen. Like, anyone that I've talked to always comes back to you. Like, almost every single interview that I've done over the last year, your name has always come up. And so I mean, you're like the queen in this whole arena, and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm able to even talk to you and have you. But thank you for your work. Thank you for sticking it through it no matter what. Thank you as a female too, just to be like the one who's still, you know, talking to people and sharing and truthing and investigating and staying up hours and hours to do all this. And I mean, I know, you know, for me, this has taken hours and hours too. And there's a part where it's like, you love it, and it's almost not even a job at all. And also there are these, you know, ups and downs, and, you know, and then our own personal healing through all of this, because, you know, you hear these bits and pieces, and then you're getting your own memories and your own things, and you're having to take a little bit of time to work through your own life of, you know, experiences. And so, you know, a lot of people just give up and end up doing drugs and alcohol and suicide, and they just stop. And you've stayed, and you've connected, and you've kept on, and you've brought in, I mean, you're such a you know, like if you see a wheel, you're like the hub in the wheel. There's so many connections to you over all the resources and all the interviews that I've seen, and everyone says it over and over again. So you're just someone that I really, really respect and honor, and everyone else does too. So I just thank you for your time and your service for so many years, and for continuing to do what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind words. And it looks like you're doing some great work too. I did look over your website briefly and watched a bit of a video. And I can say that, you know, I wasn't aware of your work, but I'd really like to learn more about it. So I hope you will come on my show. And I just want to say that it's not so much me that's at the hub, but I do think Camelot is. And I don't think it's an accident that we were called Project Camelot, and that I, you know, had past life memories of Camelot, the original Camelot, and that, you know, King Arthur's Camelot. And I also think that, you know, John F. Kennedy and his, you know, his death, and, you know, John is all part of, you know, Camelot. And so there's no accident there, that there's something that really resonates, a group of us that came back from those times to bring forward the truth. And I believe that the Camelot witnesses were from those days, and that we basically had a mission, and that we brought that mission forward. So I don't see it as myself. I see it as this spokes of this huge, you know, this round table. and the round table has gotten, you know, bigger and bigger, but the concept is real, and it's not hierarchical. You know, it's just a round table. We're all around it, and we're sharing the truth about who we are with each other and waking up humanity. And I think that's an incredible mission to be on. And so, you know, I'm glad that you're here with me around the table as well, and all the people that have joined us over the years and supported my work. And I just want to thank them all for that.
Awesome. Awesome. So you guys definitely check out her videos, watch all of them, just do a binge. Since we're not watching Netflix and all the other things anymore, this is a great opportunity. Watch them while you can. There's some really, really fascinating videos that I have spent a lot of time over the years listening to, watching, and learning. I mean, talk about an education that you won't get anywhere, from real life sources who are experiencing these things, not just heard about it, read about it, saw it in a movie, but the real people. And so check that out. Definitely get her book on Amazon. I cannot wait to read it. I'm super stoked that it came in the mail in time for the video. I was hoping to get it in time. I just saw you talking to Robert about it. And I'm like, what? She has a book. Okay, I got to get that. So I was like, before it was even over. But yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I definitely look forward.
I hear you have some books out there too. So we'll bring that forward when I interview you, and please do stay in touch.
Yes, thank you. And yes, where you guys connect with me too, swiftfire.org. One of my books that I just showed is The Science of Miracles, which goes into literally the biofield, the Merkaba, you know, the whole aura, the connection with it being both radioactive and magnetic, and how we can change the DNA to shift our outcomes, which is what we're doing on a collective right now. If we could all just get our forces together and love and truth and really do some things, and we can shift the whole thing. But you guys have a great night or a great day, whatever it is that you guys are listening to this. And definitely connect with her, get her on Facebook, Instagram. She said she's on all the different platforms. So do your best due diligence to go in and follow all the places that she is, because you don't know if one's going to be taken down or the next thing, you know. Make sure you're staying in tune with all the things in her email and her website, because that's going to be up. So check that out. And thank you again so much. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you again, Kerry. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.